What is up, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and man, welcome to episode 156 of Expert Mentors Live. I'm really excited to dive in with Mr. John Gluch today on nailing what I feel is the most important process in your business, and how to create that leverage that fits within the model, within the salary cap. And I'm pumped to dive in with you today. So, John, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Hey, dude, I'm doing great. It's great to be on. This program was one of the reasons I joined EXP. It's because of all the awesome cons. Like, dang, if these people are hanging out over there, sign me up, dude. Like, I'm in, man. So it's a honor, very flattering to be on today. Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the in the works, right? We've been trying to make it happen for some time, and here we are. And I do, right? I'm with you 100%. I think, the real value, we were chatting before, EXPI is being very generous today.
On fire today, man. If you haven't checked your stock today, go check it.
Go check it out. It's on fire. There's a lot of value within the organization, within the platform, but I'm with you 100%, man. It's the community. It's who you get to connect with, and like-minded individuals that are just trying to, add value and help each other grow. And really that's what Expert Mentors is about. This whole program started with, is your direct sponsor Kyle or Dan?
It's actually Jen Wayner.
Okay, so it's Jen. Yeah, so it's right under there. So, the whole Expert Mentors was even this whole episode that we, episode 156 is the Daniel Beer and Kyle Whistle creation. They set the meeting and they're like, hey, I think we should do something on this scale. And in typical Jay Kinder fashion, he goes, hey, John's the most consistent. I think let's let him run with it.
Right.
So here we are.
Yeah.
So cool, brother.
Still going. Love it.
Still going, man. Hey, so I would love, there's over 8,000 in the Honey Badger Nation. And just, I think what Al said, we added 500 in the last 30 days. So, we're growing at an exponential rate, just like EXP is. And I know there's so many rock stars in this community, and just it's almost impossible to be able to connect with everyone. I would love for you to just kind of share a little bit about your story and a little bit of background, and love to dive in more a little bit about you.
Yeah, totally. So I started in real estate in 2003. I graduated from Arizona State University, and go Devils, and got a finance degree. Dude, it was so funny. I did very well in school, and the economy was fantastic, and I could not get a job. I was like unemployable. I couldn't get a job as a bank teller. Like, I went every place, and I couldn't explain it. I don't know what was going on. And I ended up getting a job finally working for an old friend of mine. I was involved with Young Life, which is like a youth ministry organization. And my old buddy who worked for Young Life, who I worked for, had started a company teaching people how to flip houses. This was when it was like a big thing to have classes to teach people how to invest in real estate, and you pay $5,000 and learn how to go flip a house, And so he was doing that. And so I went on to work for him as his assistant, and just fell in love, not only with real estate, but with entrepreneurship. My father was a federal prison warden, so government employee. We moved around a lot. It's like a lot like a military job. So all I knew was government work, and I was going to do a 9 to 5 and go, whatever, earn a pension and do the whole thing like he did. And it worked out great for him. And he's actually moving out to San Diego soon. I'm stoked about that. But I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. But man, I fell in love with it, and it all kind of took off from there. A lot of ups and downs. But about probably 8 or 9 years ago, I got into residential real estate, out of the investing world, and into like doing this, selling houses, running a team, all that. Joined Craig Proctor Coaching. Super thankful for those guys. They changed my life. Like, I literally had to put it on a credit card, couldn't afford it. My wife was like, let's do it. I believe in you. We're sitting in the Starbucks of some Hilton at a Craig Proctor conference, and it's like, we can do it. And we signed up, and it just changed everything. If I got in I really devoured all the material, started growing the team. And now I live in San Diego now. 3 years ago, I moved to San Diego, but I built my team in Phoenix up to a couple hundred deals a year. We'll do about 120 million in sales this year. Moved to San Diego 3 years ago because I just wanted to live in San Diego, and my team was running without me pretty well. And so for 3 years, I just ran it remotely. And then last year when I joined EXP, one of the reasons I joined EXP was because I could run brokerages in multiple states, teams in multiple states. I'm not even licensed in California, but I run a team here now. and that team will do 30 or 40 million this year.
That's
So yeah, so now I run both. Although I've got a couple guys in Phoenix who head up operations out there, and they're taking a lot over for me out there. So now I'm really focused on growing the San Diego team, keeping the Phoenix team going, and here I am. So that's the quick story.
It's awesome, man, and leads us right into the whole conversation that we really want to unpack today. And being able to do anything and grow anything takes great people, right? You wouldn't be able to do what you do from where you're at without great people. And so, I would love for you to kind of, where you went in and definitely learning that concept of, how valuable the team is and building the team and having those assets. Like where was that for you that you're like, okay, if I'm going to accomplish and do anything big, I know it's going to take people.
Yeah. Here's a couple stories like that. I think lucky things that happened to me and some good coaching that I think people miss right now as they're building teams. I think a lot of people are really focused on, let me go get more buyer's agents. Like that seems to be the easy answer. People just want to go get agents, which I get the idea because you don't have to pay them. You're just going to give them a split, right? So it's a little less scary. But I was really lucky because I hired Warren Flax, great friend and awesome mentor out on the East Coast. He was my coach in Craig Proctor, and he was super smart, like Wharton MBA, sharp dude. And I hired a guy named Justin, my first team member, put him on salary. I don't know what I paid him, some salary to be basically my assistant. He was a young guy, super sharp, but wanted to learn real estate. And that's what happened to me, right? I was like some guy's assistant, and I learned and grew, and I was like, hey, let me just do what I did. So I hired Justin, and the guy was super sharp. And so I started having him do more buyer work. But I talked to my coach Warren and was like, hey, so do I put him on a split or whatever? Like, it seems to make more sense to me just keep paying this guy a salary, because you start giving splits away. My leads are really good. These are like repeat referral business, friends, family, people who called me from like Yelp and all these other things. They're not hard leads. And he's like, no, to keep him on a salary, maybe give him a little bonus. And I grew my whole team that way. Like my first 3-4 agents were all salaried agents. I didn't pay anybody a split until way down the road, which has kind of evolved into this model, like a showing agent model to some degree, which is what we're doing now too. But the lesson for me was we stayed real profitable the whole time. And the lesson was like, you don't need to learn from all the other models, but you don't necessarily need to copy them. You need to be aware of where you're getting your leads from. My leads were so good that it didn't require a ton of any energy and time to convert them. So like, why pay people a split? Why not pay them a salary and just funnel them the leads, So it worked out really well, and it stayed a really profitable model. Along the same lines, Kristen Stampini, who was in Craig Proctor, one of my coaches, was really good at virtual assistants. So she'd hire all these people in the Philippines to work for her to do the admin work, and very inexpensive, and they were fantastic, and it was working great. Now, it was a lot of work to recruit, hire, and train those people. It's back in the day. It's like, I don't know, six years ago, which in virtual assistant world was a while ago.
Wild, Wild West back then. Yeah, good luck.
Now it's a lot easier, but it was hard. But man, it helped us stay profitable. So I've always had a really good bottom line, like, 30% or so, regardless of how big we've gotten. So I started to realize early on, like I needed people. Darren Hardy says, the bigger your dream, the bigger your team needs to be. And I think that's really true. And I answered a question you didn't ask, which is, hey, thinking about the bottom line is an important part of that process too, as you bring people on.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? It's, obviously that, revenue can kind of be vanity a little bit and really paying attention to that bottom line. And, it comes into, hey, what's the dollars I have to put the best team on the field? Yeah. And how can I allocate those? So before we jump into kind of, some definitely kind of talking about the VA world, like how were you able to keep salaried agents excited and happy to go close deals when, hey, they're getting, X number of dollars that, well, if I just did that, could be on a commission, could I exponentially grow my income earning opportunity? So how do you keep salaried people excited, with what they're earning?
Yeah, great question. And there's two ways we did it. One was, I was bringing people over who weren't already realtors. They were in some other business and they wanted to get in real estate. So the idea that they could become a real estate agent and not be 100% commission was very attractive. because these are people who had other jobs, right? So not a lot of people can just stop earning money, cross their fingers, and hope they get a commission in 3 months. Like that's not easy to do. So the fact that I was like, yep, you get a guaranteed salary right away, day one, I'm going to teach you everything I know, and I'm going to give you not like leads, I'm going to give you clients, like people who want to go buy a house today, right? So the quality, so that was an attractive proposition. That was part of it.
Oh, it's huge.
I don't think it would have worked if I was trying to bring over people who used to be on a split. Like, I don't think that would have worked. We never tried to do that, and I don't think we should have. The other thing we did was we put everybody on a profit share, and we still do this today. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us who are profit sharing in the company. So these are people who have been around the longest. We call it our core team, and they all earn a salary of some kind. And then all the money the company generates gets put in a pot, and everybody in that core team gets a cut of that, a certain percentage based on how long they've been around, what their job is, and that kind of thing. So they still care about selling houses because, a decent chunk of their check every month is the profit share. But if they have a bad month, but the company does great, no problem. It also incentivizes teamwork, right? It's like, sure, I'll go show that house for Jeremy because we're all in this together,
Right.
So the way we've evolved is now we have that core team, which are all salary plus profit share people. And then we have all we call them expansion agents, all the new people we're bringing on, because that can only grow so fast. You can only bring on people at a salary. That's going to restrict your growth,
Sure.
But we could bring on all these expansion teams who are on a more traditional split model. And some people love that, but some people go do that for a while and they're great. But they're like, dude, I'd rather have the consistency of being on the core team, getting that check every month, not worried about if I had a bad month, and they escalate up to the core team month. So it's different strokes for different folks. But there are some people who really like that stability. They'd rather have the stability than the big killer month, because they happen to sell 8 houses that month.
How do you so how do you, within the agreement on the salary side of things, how do you, protect yourself, right? As the owner that's providing that, that salary employment opportunity, what are the agreements of success, the key metrics that they have to be held accountable to? How do you juggle that, right? It's like, hey, I had a bad month, I didn't close anything, or I closed to X. Mm-hmm. Like, what is that agreement of success with somebody on salary?
Yeah, there's some level of, like, we just moved to CSU. We were on CTE for a while, but where these are tracking apps that'll help you see how people are doing. So there's some level of accountability, but it's small enough of a group of people, and the people are their core values align so tightly with ours, and they're people who there's a lot of trust with. Like, I've gone through iterations of this where we were really trying to make sure, keep everybody accountable. I've learned this too. There's different kind of teams. There's teams who every morning there's a morning huddle, and there's an afternoon huddle, and there's all these huddles. And hey, did you do your thing you said you were going to do yesterday? And all this stuff. Like, that's awesome, but it's not my wheelhouse, right? So I stick with people who are, have a lot of self-responsibility, and it's in the numbers, right? After 2-3 months of like, hey, things are looking a little slow for, this person over here, then we'll just have a conversation. But it's not real granular. For us, it's bigger picture. And I've done it well and I've done it poorly. And I've really learned that the kind of person who fits on the salary part, I've learned who that person is, and it's the person who does not want to go out, shuck and jive and get 10 of their own buyers this year. They just don't want to do that. They would rather get paid potentially a little bit less and execute at a high level on people we serve up on a silver platter. That's a different kind of person than Dan Beer, or me, or Kyle, who's going to go out and we live every day to go knock down 10 more people. That's a different kind of person.
Sure.
And you kind of pick that up intuitively.
So you mentioned big picture. Is that big picture for you, or is that the overall vision that everybody's kind of bought into in pursuit of big picture?
You mean the alignment I was talking about?
Yeah, you said, it's a more about the bigger picture. So what is bigger picture?
Yeah, I mean, for us, our mission is humanizing the real estate industry by creating a truly exceptional client experience that helps people find homes. So for us, it's all about, like, how do we treat people like people? And we have a list of 12 core attributes. We have 3 core values: honor, hope, and excellence. And then behind that are 9 other values that kind of support that. And it's a big part of our culture. Like, we hire off of that. We talk about them a lot. We're in Slack honoring people who are demonstrating those attributes. And so what's wonderful about this new hybrid model where we've got people on splits and then people on the core team is you really start to see, it gives you an opportunity to see people in action and go, those people, they're patriots. Darren Hardy talks about this a lot too. Like, you patriots are mercenaries, right? Mercenaries are like hired guns, and mercenaries are great. Like, I had no problem with mercenaries. You want to come around and, go help execute on 4 or 5 deals a month. That's awesome. No problem. Yeah. There's some people who love the Gluch Group. Like, they love what we do. They believe in the mission. They honor our attributes. They're our kind of people, And when that happens, when people are really in service to the mission, they're volunteering to help on their time off. They're covering for people when they're on vacation. They're, all these attributes. When that starts to happen, that's the kind of person that's like, okay, maybe this is a core team kind of person, especially if they want that stability of the salary idea.
Yeah, man.
But you talked about protecting yourself. The reality is you are escalating your risk when you pay salaries. Like, your salary risk goes up and up and up and up. So you got to be careful. I've burned myself on that, where we had 3-4 months where I lost money, and it's like, which for me was like terrifying, And part of that was I had put some people who really weren't the right people on salary, and they're wonderful people. They just weren't the fit for the role. And it was starting to add up, And so I've learned now to be a little more cautious, and we really make sure we're confident that our revenue is and our deal flow is gonna fill those people's coffers. And the numbers are like 4 houses a month on the buy side. Okay. We want to see them closing 4 or 5 houses a month.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Yeah, that's great. So how are you determining the salary? And I know we're maybe go down the rabbit hole, but this is
that's okay.
This is definitely very very impactful, very powerful.
Sure.
So are you using tools to determine like a salary.com, looking for a market-based wage of how you're determining that? And then, kind of what is maybe a model that you're using if somebody's thinking, hey, and I'm assuming that these guys aren't partners; they just have profit share.
So I have 2 different. I do have 2 guys in Phoenix who are partners. Really, their salaries are next to nothing. They're really, and that was the thing we did last year during COVID. Which part of that was the 3 months leading up to COVID, I had lost money. Then COVID hit, and I was freaking terrified because I'm like, dude, this is like, I lost everything in 2007. I had all these rentals and lost my company.
So you're bringing those thoughts are coming back.
Yeah. Up. So I was in a real different spot. I had a lot of assets who were in much better shape as a family, but I was still scared. Mm-hmm. And so we took everybody off salary, including admin. We put everybody on commission. Like, hey, every deal that closes, you get X dollars, because I don't know how this is going to go. A couple people quit, which I totally understand. It was a scary moment. And in hindsight, of course, that was an overreaction, but I didn't know at the time, right? So during that transition, we started having conversations. I was in San Diego, I've been there 3 years. I wasn't going to go anywhere. I was going to start San Diego. I was starting EXP. I knew my time and attention was going to be diverted. And my 2 guys in Phoenix who have been there from the beginning, and these guys are incredible. It's like, okay, let's start having a conversation about you guys becoming, partners, really. So those guys, they're really profit share partners, truly, So that's a unique scenario for me because I needed somebody to run my company in Phoenix. But I think what would be more helpful for most people listening is the way we structure a more normal agent on our salary model. And the way you want to do that is you want to pay people enough with their salary to where they're fine, But I would target 60% of their income as salary and 40% is the profit share. And that should be every dollar the company earns gets put into the coffer, including money that our split agents are making, right? So the company makes money on the split agents that sell houses. We get a split of that. That goes in the coffer too. Because now they're incentivized at an even higher level to go help those new agents. Mm-hmm. Those expand. It's not competitive at all. They're like, dude, sweet, we brought on 3 new people. Awesome. Like, let's get that profit share check up, no problemo. So now they're the guys who are like helping out, looking for ways to serve, looking for ways to take care of people. There are examples and our top guys, they sell the most houses. So that's the way I would split it. And you just want to target some number, like figure out what do you think this agent at this stage of their career should be making, given the fact that I'm providing 100% of their business, or almost 100%. And then we also let them earn. So if they bring in their own deals, they get 75% of that. The Gluch Group takes 25%. So if they sell 3 or 4 homes to Grandma Susie or Uncle Frank or whoever, then that just stacks on top of what they're making from us, and that can make them a pretty great year, Yeah. And this is kind of perfect for the person who on their own would probably get about 4 or 5 deals a year, but they're good. They're really good. They're just not marketers. They're not networkers,
And they're probably great human beings that align to your values at their core and what you guys aspire to. So no, I love that framework. I just want to make sure everybody, capture that. And just for everybody listening, just what John was saying, they're real true partners. That means they have equity in the organization, right? Not just, hey, you got salary plus profit. They actually have equity in the entity itself. So no, I appreciate that. And I think that aligns right into the whole thing that we want to get to. And it's all part of the process, which I believe the most important critical system and process that you should have in your business is the hiring, right? Identify, hire, onboard, train, excel process, because it's like, hey, if you're an individual, a business owner, you struggle with marketing and sales, you can go make those hires to leverage your weakness, and you can bring them and make your organization a strength because you identify and you know how to make that hire. So if everybody caught, right, John's in San Diego, he's got a team that's doing over 100 million in Phoenix, and he's also growing San Diego. So being able to have the virtual concept, now let's kind of shift gears a little bit to, and you even touched on it a second, but having those virtual employees, right, those virtual team members, not even within the States, but all over the planet. So talk to us a little bit about that and where you kind of alluded to it, but that decision to even, hey, this is a real opportunity for us to be able to identify.
Yeah, I just recognized hey, of course there's wonderful talent all over the world, right? And so there in the Philippines in particular, India is this way. We have a couple of folks from India as well on the team. Their culture, there's a lot of people in that culture who work overnight. They work in the middle of the night when the United States is open for business, right? And that's very normal, like call centers, all kind of stuff, right? So I knew the talent pool was there, and I knew some friends who were doing this successfully. And I also knew that scaling, you really got to think about in the beginning, you can't just throw money at problems because that doesn't scale, right? So needing more help. And a lot of the tasks that need to be accomplished in a real estate team don't require a license, a lot of the tasks. So I just figured, okay, let's get every single one of those tasks that doesn't require a license. Let's figure out a way to get somebody overseas doing that. And the first person we hired, her name is Julie. She's still with us today. She's on maternity leave right now and just had her first baby. Been with us 5 years. She's incredible. That's awesome. Last year for 2020, she was our only transaction coordinator. We did not have a United States-based transaction coordinator, did 160 deals, and she did them all. And she lives in the Philippines, and she's incredible. And a good wage in the Philippines or in India is, anywhere from $3 to $7 or $8 an hour is a pretty good living wage. And we got a great company to work for. They get to work from home. We provide maternity leave, all this other stuff, right? We take really good care of our team. So if you can get people who you're able to pay far less than you would pay someone in the United States, plus tax consequences, plus you don't need an office for them or a computer, blah blah blah. Go down the thing, right? So it saves a lot of money, and it's the best part of our company, in my opinion. I mean, it's so fun to work with. We have 8 virtual assistants now. They are fun and funny and add so much to our company. They're just the most wonderful people in the world, and I wouldn't do it without them. I mean, even if it wasn't cheaper, we would keep doing it because I've just fallen in love with this process. It's been really great.
Yeah. And I want you to share kind of the process that you guys, because you've hired enough, you've a lot of lessons learned kind of going through it. But why do you feel, and we chatted about this before we went live, but I just want you to kind of reshare your thoughts on why such the big push and the opportunity with, going the virtual route?
I think why for us, or why is the economy?
I would say why in general, right? Because there's a lot of agents, people even in the Honey Badger Nation that have really started to tap into the virtual assistant route. Kind of from your perspective and your experience, because you've been doing it longer than most. What do you see that's changed now versus maybe even 18, 24 months ago?
I think two or three things. One is it has to start with good systems and good software. Your software has to be very good. Like, so for us, we use Asana. Monday is another software program. People are really working on Trello. You need some task system that's going to help you organize all the things you're doing every day. That's also going to work overseas on any computer that has an internet connection, right? And that has become a new thing that wasn't as good 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Like, it's getting much better now. So most people aren't operating with their day, out of their email every day. Like, I do that because I got an email, and I do the next email I got, and I do, like, that's not an efficient way to work. You're better off integrating into a system like Asana that's going to organize all your tasks for the day in a meaningful way. And more importantly, those tasks can be assigned to anyone on your team at Asana. So Julie in the Philippines, I can just change the name on that task and she can execute on that, right? So the fact that those softwares have gotten so good, and if you're not on one, I love Asana, it's fantastic. I think that's a huge win. I think the second thing is, we were virtual before it was cool, just because we had to be, because I lived in San Diego, right? And so we got good at it by necessity, which is what happened last year. People got good at virtual because they had to. So I think that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, there are now companies like Sphere Rocket is my current favorite, and there are companies like them who will go help you find virtual. They've really honed in on how do you go find a great virtual assistant overseas. And it is a skill set, even to this day. It's not easy. So there are good companies who can source you wonderful people, and Sphere Rocket's my current favorite, and I think that helps a lot too. And we were talking about in the call before we went live, because the demand for virtual assistants overseas is increasing, the talent pool is rising, right? I mean, why wouldn't that happen?
Sure.
People are getting paid more, there's more demand. So in the Philippines, all these other countries, people on we don't have to recruit at all anymore, because everybody on our team just goes, hey, when we need somebody, call me. My cousin whoever is in, and it's like, great. And we bring on cousin whoever, and they're fantastic. And the person who brought them on owns that responsibility of making sure they're good. Their reputation's on the line. These cultures are very strong, like honor shame cultures, right? They're not going to bring on someone who sucks. So they bring on somebody, they're good, and they really help them scale up. And it's amazing. So I think the talent pool in those countries is really rising, as is technology and access to the internet, all that other stuff. So the world's changing, and it's really good. It's great for us, and it's great for those economies, because it's raising their standard of living. It's raising their standard of pay. Like, I think that's all fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And we were chatting, a little bit before, and it just comes down to math, right? Because within our business, as we're growing, we only have X number of dollars to put the best team on the field. And so, hey, I need some talent in this function. Well, if I'm trying to find somebody local on that level, man, I may be paying, $20, $25, and you're like, man, I can't afford that on a full-time basis. Well, now, at a third or a quarter of that same investment, you can get the equivalent in talent and maybe a better core value fit for those dollars. So your labor investment is able to go a lot further than it would be if you're trying to find somebody on a local level. I love it, man. I'm with you. I'm in, and Justin and his team, that organization at Sphere Rocket, they're phenomenal. I always, he likes to joke with it a little bit, but I really think he's a talent finding organization as well as a training organization. And I'm with you, brother. I think they're leading the way right now.
Yeah, it just lowers the barrier of entry to get somebody. And then I created a cheat sheet, a VA, like virtual assistant, V like Victor, A like Apple, cheatsheet.com. And in there, I talk about what you can have a virtual assistant do. It's free, the deal is, but it's what you can have virtual assistants do, how to vet out the virtual assistants, how to recruit and train them, what systems we use. It's kind of all, I spent a lot of time on that because I really think it's as I'm recruiting to EXP now, bringing on all these new agents, one of the biggest needs they have is it's a solo agent who's busy enough to bring somebody on for the first time. That's very common. And it's also a really good person to recruit. And so I want to equip those people at a high level. And so that's one of the reasons I created that cheat sheet is how do we get you from a one-man show to a business, And another recommendation is E-Myth Revisited, that book. If you haven't read it, I read it once a year. It gets your mindset out of I sell houses and into I own a business, and it's fantastic primer for that. So I would really suggest that for folks too.
Man, I love that. Thank you for sharing that resource, because that book is a reference manual more so than a book, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
really is one of those that needs to be revisited, often, to really kind of remind ourselves. And VA Victor Apple cheat sheet.com to be able to get that resource. So, John, it's, man, I'm overwhelmed. I'm an agent, maybe, I'm not in an organization like you, but I'm trying to go. How would you say, okay, I get it. I can invest $4, $5, $6 an hour, get me some help. How would you say, hey, the first step, I have awareness, I know I need to do it, but what would you say, taking through that process, what would be the next step before pulling the trigger?
Creating a system. So first of all, get Asana or whatever you want, Monday, whatever you want to do, and start building out. First thing you do when you do that is start putting all the stuff you do every day into Asana, it's basically a checklist. Like, I did that, I did that, I did that. So start there. That's the first step. Then once you kind of get the hang of like, okay, now I don't ever work out of my email. Everything from my email I take and I put into Asana, and I work out of Asana in a thoughtful way, right? If my options are, fill out some form for the broker, or, call this prospect back, I call the prospect back first, right? So you have some system, everyone can do this however they want to do it. Start there. Second step in Asana or whatever is start creating checklists for the things that you do that are replicable. Like, for example, every time I sell a house, these 18 things have to happen, right? Like the transaction coordinating stuff, we have checklists for everything. We have checklists for making an offer. Every time you make an offer, here are how do I think in this market? One of the things on our checklist is, here are 20 different ways to make your offer look better. And what you do is you just pull that checklist up every day, every time you make an offer, and you go, okay, well, that's not going to work in this scenario. This one, oh, I forgot about that one. Let me do that, and make it, and we get our offers accepted because we don't forget. And every time we have a team meeting and someone shares some new cool thing they did to get an offer accepted, we put it in the checklist. So now everybody benefits from those various inputs that we've got as a team. So that's the second step, is creating checklists. And while you're doing that, you're thinking about, could someone else do this, right? So start with like transaction coordinating is a good one to do, because that's very easy to outsource. So as you're creating these checklists, you're starting to think, oh, okay, that could be a virtual assistant. That could be a virtual assistant. That could be but you're creating a system before you hire the person, because then once you hire the person, now you've got a program for, okay, here's what you're going to do around here, right? And you put them in Asana, and now it's not just you with every task assigned to you. Now you got a second person who every task you're doing throughout the day, every single day, you're going, oh, that could be somebody else. And the other thing I tell people is, do not be afraid to hire someone and not have enough for them to do. Like, that's okay, because what it will do is it'll force you to sit around annoyed at the fact that you're paying someone to do nothing. And it's going to force you to go, okay, I'm going to stay up till midnight tonight, showing them how to whatever, use the MLS to set up showings, how to fill in this form. I'm going to create a video. We use Loom a lot. That's a great tool for video recording, how to explain how to do something, right? Yep. So that's those are the steps. Although let me backtrack and do one step before that. Before you do any of that, hire a yard guy, hire a house cleaner, hire a transaction coordinator, like outsource anything you can outsource piecemeal, grocery shopping, any of that stuff you're doing. If you're starting to make enough money to where it's time to hire somebody, the first thing you do is hire all that stuff out, because that is a huge waste of your time, and it's very easy to get that stuff taken care of, your pool, whatever, right? 100%. Shouldn't be doing any of that first, then start creating systems. With all that time you freed up from not doing your yard, your pool, and your car, and your whatever, create systems in Asana, and then go hire your person. That's the flow, in my opinion. That's how I did.
Through that process, and 100%. And so through that process, like, okay, so I got Asana, I've got it all layered out. Now I'm ready to start the actual hiring process. Hey, this is what you need to be thinking about if you've never, hey, I've piecemealed some stuff, but I've never really hired somebody that's going to work with me directly full time. What would you say? Okay, hey, this is kind of going through that process now.
Yeah. So so what I would do is I would get a hold of Sphere Rocket and have them find you somebody. However, here's what's going to happen. they're going to send you, I don't know how many people they send you. You would know. You've done 5, 10 people, whatever.
5 this year. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and when they do that, they don't just give you a person, right? You get to interview 4 or 5 people, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I would do instead of starting with an interview is I would create a system, and I have this in that VA cheat sheet thing, or you can go to, my latest one is at gluchcareer.com, GLUCHCAREER.com. And what it is, it's a funnel system. And so it's a video of me explaining the job. Here's what the job is. Here's how great it is. Here's the kind of person we're looking for. Here's our mission. Here's who we are, right? And it's got bullet points, what you do at the job. And then it says, if you want to apply, click this button. And I click this button and it takes them to a Survey Monkey where they have to answer 8 or 10 questions about themselves, whatever you can, and whatever questions you want to know. We always ask them for their Facebook profile, their LinkedIn, whatever. We want to see if they're bozos online. And a lot of people get eliminated that way. It's like, oh, okay, you're angry. Like, I don't want you working for me. So, like,
dude, that's such a good point, man. I think that's what people, they overlook that, man. And I remember we were at TNC, might have been the last one that they had before pandemic, but Damon John was one of the keynotes. And he goes, I just look at, I don't even pay attention to their resume. I just look at their social media profile. And that's true, right? Because social media is the new resume. And so if you guys are not combing through people's social media profiles, like, you could be set up for a big surprise if you don't do that.
And it used to be like, we couldn't really find them. And so now we just ask, like, give us your profiles, So we check them and we get all the questions they answer. So, and then after the Survey Monkey's done, it goes to the next step. You click, okay, submit. And then Survey Monkey says, thanks. And we get to fill in whatever you want in that message. And so then we have them jump through some other hoop. And that hoop depends on the job role. If it's an agent, somebody who's going to get a sales job, we want them to record a video of 3 minutes of why they're awesome, put it on YouTube, send it to us in a private link. That shows us, are they confident? Can they make a video? Can they figure out how to put it on YouTube? Can they figure out how to create a private link, right? Like, we're not a tech company. We're not trying to teach people how tech support, right? Like, you got to know what you're up to if you're going to join our team. If it's more of a VA role, probably what I would do is I would create some, like, what I do for a lot of them is I'll say, hey, go to my website. I've got all kind of videos and stuff on johngluch.com. Pick 3 or 4 quotes, anything I say that you like, and create a infographic with, like, a picture and a quote. And people will send, it's like, and then email it to this address and make this the subject, right? That for virtual assistants, I would be real specific. Subject says this, make this many infographics, whatever, real specific. And if they can't follow those, don't even interview them. Like, that, this is a detail-oriented job. You are hiring someone who's going to be a tactician on detail-oriented roles. Make sure they can follow instructions before you waste your time interviewing.
It's a deselection process, man. It's so gangsta to be able to do that. Yeah. So John, like, say, hey, okay, I've gone through the process. I've, started the process with Sphere Rocket. They tell me they have 8 candidates. Yeah. Do you say, hey, send me those 8 candidates, their information, and then you send that link to them? Or do you meet with them and then send it to them and have them fill it out?
I would meet with them. I would say, okay, Justin or whoever his teammates are, send them here and have them fill out this application first.
Perfect.
And then the people who execute on that well, I would interview.
Perfect.
So I'd fun with that. Now, this works really well when you have an abundance of candidates, which is going to be the case with virtual assistants.
Yep.
When on our agent recruiting side, when we're recruiting agents, we have them jump through a few hoops before we sit with them, but not many, because the reality is agents aren't as detail oriented, and I'm okay with that. And to some degree, we'll take everybody, because I've got a role for everybody. Even if they're not a good fit for my team, they could be a great EXP recruit, or they could be a good fit for somebody else's EXP team, whatever, right? So I don't want to make the barrier to entry too high for agents, but for admin roles, I really do make sure people jump through those hoops, because it's an easy thing to test. So why not test it up front? So we do it that way.
Dude, I love it, man. It's so powerful. And, people just, they weed themselves out, and you're like, well, I don't want to weed them. Yeah, you do. You want them to weed themselves out. So
And if you don't have enough applicants, that's a marketing problem. It's not because they're nobody good or because your system is too hard to follow. I mean, as long as it works, right? I test it, make sure it isn't failing, but as long as the system's not broken, like I'm kind of out of virtual assistants, because if you're hiring Sphere Rocket, it's their job to get the people, and they're good at it. Yep. So you can trust them. Yep. But if you're hiring I just hired a transaction coordinator. If you're not getting enough applicants, it's because you're not marketing well. Like you need to be in more places. You need to pay for ads. Your copy needs to be better. Like you need to be selling people to get them to the landing page. And what I've found is if you have people jumping through these hoops, you get better culture fits too. Because by the time they get to me, they've jumped through lots of hoops. They've interviewed with all these people on my team, and they want the job because they're like, damn, you guys aren't kidding around. Like it's hard to get in over there, you know? And that's going to turn some people off. And those are the people I don't want on my team.
That's great. You want to do that. So John, so if I'm, hey, I get it, the virtual, but I'm looking for somebody, in my market to be in my office. I want to be able to sit shoulder to shoulder. What are some of the places that need to be getting the advertisement out to? Is there like, hey, you need to make sure you connect with here, you need to get it here.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
I have an assistant in the US. I had 4 or 5 VAs before I got my first person in the United States, which is the way I suggest people do it. Like you want to get a few VAs first, and then you probably at some point in your career are going to need someone in your, like, because Ashley, who's my assistant, I needed someone local because there's stuff that needs to be done locally. Like I need people, I need this thing to be done and that thing over here and whatever. And so I needed someone who was local. So, but that's also true. Of course, our transaction coordinator is local. We need someone licensed to do that. And the places to be are like Indeed, Monster.com, LinkedIn, any job site you can find that you can do, put it on there and pay for ads. Like there's nothing more important than this. This is the most important marketing job you'll ever have is this job. Yeah. So like Darren Hardy, who's a great mentor of mine, he talks a lot about there's no more important marketing than your team. And there's no more important VIP clients than your team members. Like you got to take better care of them than anybody. So you got to take this really seriously and pay to get good people. I also email blast my whole database, which is 13,000 people now, and offer $1,000 reward for anyone who refers me, somebody who we end up hiring. And we've paid people out on that. Like that's worked. We post it on social media. We pay for ads on Facebook and all that other stuff too. So don't neglect your title company or lender. A lot of my good people in real estate have come from those sources as well, and offer a reward because it's worth it, And those emails I send, those e-blasts, get opened up more than any other email I send. Like now hiring, whatever, like people are always looking, or they know a friend or whatever,
Do you, always, is it always, we're always looking for talent? Does the word on the street, all of your close connection, those of influence, those that you trust in that kind of that business circle, mm-hmm. Do they always know, hey, I'm looking for talent. I'm always looking for talent.
Yes, but we could do a better job of that. Like we probably ought to have systematic, once a month reminders of some kind, in particular to influencers, to people we know, who know lots of people. Like we probably ought to do that, because the truth is, like for somebody incredible, like we'll find something, like we'll figure it out. So we could do a better job of that. That's a really valuable sentiment for people to have about your company if it's true. And, I think systemizing that would be smart. So I'll write that down. It's a good idea.
Yeah. I think, a lot of, some of the best people, they're not looking for a job, right? But
most of them aren't. Yeah.
They're not. So it becomes, hey, I'm looking for this key function, and they know who you guys are at your core. They're like, dude, I know John and their team over there, they're looking for a rock star just like you. You need to think about or have a conversation with them. So I think if you have those you have assets out in the community that are doing, looking for talent mm-hmm. for you.
And you can go on LinkedIn and find, search for whatever, transaction coordinators, whatever you want. Anybody who has that job role, and just direct message them, have your VA direct message every single one of them and say, hey, we're looking for a great transaction coordinator. Really love what I've seen on your page. Looks like you are a top talent. Flatter them a little bit, encourage them, and shoot me a message if you'd be interested in learning more. Real low barrier to entry, and hit people up who have jobs already. You never know when that person's looking around. Half the people at your company are looking for another job. Statistically, 30% of the people on my team are looking for some other job. And that ought to keep you awake at night as a team leader. And it also ought to be an opportunity for you to look at other teams and go, hey, that person's awesome. Would you ever consider,
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And so you get to the point, you're like, okay, hey, this is where my business is at. How do you go about determining, okay, I got your role, I got your function, I know who I'm looking for. How do you go about compensation? How do you determine, hey man, this is where, the compensation, what business is that I can afford? How do you work through that process?
We've played with this, and two things. One, we've played with advertising compensation on the ads, and we stopped doing that. We do better. We get better people when we don't put it. And what we put is compensation better than market. I forget exactly what we put. Better than market standard or something, like with all caps. With unlimited growth potential. That's what we put for compensation.
Yep.
And we just get better people when we do it that way. As far as what we actually pay, two things. One is, well, typically during the interview process, at some point, ideally in the first one or two interviews, whoever on my team is filtering the front of the funnel there, we'll ask, what are your salary expectations and what are you making at your current job? It's an uncomfortable question to ask, but just ask it. And people sometimes will be like, they don't expect it, and they'll just almost always just answer, right? They want the job, so they'll say something. But like, why not figure out what they're making now and what they want to make up front? So maybe it's some insane amount that you'll never pay, or maybe it's far less than you would have paid, whatever, right? Like, let's figure that out. Let's negotiation 101, right? Like, you talk first, then I talk, right? So that's often how we do it. And then we're also basing it on what we've paid in the past for that work, but you're typically going to get, I like hiring one of two categories of people. One would be people who are really good and talented and they've been doing the job a while and they're going to get paid a lot and they earn it. They're good. They're high capacity. They know their stuff. Great. Or somebody brand new who I'm going to have to teach how to do this job. Like they're working at a bank or something. They're administratively capable. They're 25, super sharp, not making much money. No idea how to be a transaction coordinator. That's a lot of work, but you're going to pay that person a lot less. You're going to pay half what you paid the experienced person, probably. Do you want to take on that job or not? Do you have the time, energy, and capacity to bring that kind of person on? But those can be really good investments, those kind of people. I do not like hiring in the middle. I've kind of been doing this for a while. I kind of know it. I'm pretty good. No thanks. Like, I want someone brand new who I'm going to work really hard to teach, or someone who's crushing it and they're a pro and incredible.
So if you've got somebody that has unrealistic compensation ideas, is that even sometimes kind of not even worth messing with, or?
Yeah. It's funny on this, our last hire, our transaction coordinator, who is new, but so far I love, we forgot to ask, the people on my team forgot to ask her what her expectations were. So she got to me and nobody knew what she thought she was going to. She had interviewed with 4 different people, didn't know what she was going to make. And so that's how powerful this recruiting system is people don't even know what they're going to get paid. And they're like, yeah, I want the job, So she finally gets to me and I'm like, what do you think what are your expectations? What are you making at your current job? And she gave her number, which was more for sure than I wanted to pay. And I was like, damn, like this girl shouldn't even have got to me, like this is, and I told my team, I'm like, you guys got to get on top of this next time. Like I shouldn't even be talking to her. But I thought about it and I was super impressed with her. And I thought she could grow with the company, like into a bigger role even. Like, and I was like, you know what? I want this gal. I'm just going to offer her what we would pay and see if she'll take it, And she did. And she was like, awesome. Like, I'll do it. Great. And I built in some like, hey, I know you're making more. But she hated her job. She was ready for something new, And I was like, I know you're making more. So here's your path to more. This is what it is today. But right from the gate, if you can hit these milestones, do these things, we can get you to where you are now and then beyond. And I think as long as people see that path, I've had 5 or 6 people come work for us. Some of them at half the pay they were making at their last job because they believed in the culture we had and they saw a path to more. And many of those people are making far more than they made at their last job, double, triple what they made at their last job.
Yeah, real opportunity. What getting into the interview side of things, are there certain questions that are kind of always your go-to that no matter what you're asking these questions and because they're that important?
I have a sheet that Darren gave us as part of our a workshop I did with him that I go off of, and I don't remember. I'm trying to think of the questions he has that stick out to me. I like the example ones. So a lot of them are, give me 3 examples where you did whatever. Like you helped improve the systems at your last job. I like that one. Like, what did you do to make things better around there? And the way they answer that question is interesting. It shows whether they just got their job done or whether they really proactively figured out a way to make the company better, or when I was hiring my assistant, like, where's a situation where somebody who you worked for, you helped make their lifestyle better, or you helped improve their workflow, or you helped them save time. Like, I like specific examples of them executing on what I'm trying to get them to accomplish. And a lot of times it's, we're trying to get them to figure out how organized they are and how high capacity they are. So what do you do when you're under stress? Like, how do you handle having more work than you can get done in a day? Those kind of questions, because we're just trying to figure out what they like. But there's nothing I really love that sticks out, but I do like those example questions.
No, man, that's awesome. And I think too, like you said, depending upon how they answer, you can tell if they're gonna, if they're gonna mesh with the culture, and really, really align to it, because that's where it falls apart, right? When we don't have, consistency in the values amongst, the people within our organization.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And I'm real, lucky, because I have johngluch.com as my agent-facing site, and I have tons of videos on there. Stuff this video will go on there, right? So people can go on there and like learn a lot about who I am and how I do things. And it allows me to point all of our candidates to like, hey, go, here's your resource, here's your cheat sheet on how to like win my heart, right? Like, watch all these videos, learn what I'm about, and tell me how awesome I am, and you'll get to figure out, like, do they care enough to do that? And if they do they like me? Not everyone's going to like me. I got my own way of doing things, and other people have different ways, right? So sure. I'm trying to find my kind of people, because that's who I get along with. So if you don't have a resource like that, creating something like that webpage I gave, which is, I think it's Gluch Career Single, GluchCareer, where I just did little YouTube videos of like, here's who we are, here's what we're up to, and here's what this job, something to communicate who you are, so that you can help find out whether people really jive with you, whether they think you're great.
Oh man, that's so awesome. It's so powerful too. And no, I love that. Now, hey, we make the hire, we make the offer, they accept it. What does that look like? I'm just kind of trying to, finally connect all the dots here for everybody. So now we're hired. What's kind of your definition of onboarded? Like, what's your definition of trained? Because that's the next step, right? Yeah.
So first of all, it's systems. So we use Trainual, Trainnual, and we've created a whole system for here's how Slack works, here's how Asana works. We've just spent a ton of time. I spent hundreds of hours building out all that stuff, so that all these new people who come on, I don't have to sit with them, and nobody on my team has to sit with them and show them how those things work, because that's all can be done by video. So they learn all our systems first, and they're also getting indoctrinated in our culture. So I created videos of all of our core values, our mission statement. They print that thing out and put it on their desk, and they rate themselves on those core values based on the way how well do you think you're doing? Where have you seen people do that? Blah, blah. So we have them really get indoctrinated in the culture. And then we're trying to overwhelm them in the beginning too. Like, we want give them more work than they can get done, because that's how we do things around here. Is like, we're high capacity. That's one of our core values. So if they can't handle it, we want to know early. So we overwhelm them, and it's part of the process. So that's kind of the first 2 weeks is like learning systems, getting rocking, all that stuff. And then there's really on-the-job training, which is almost exclusively shadowing and then being shadowed. So you're going to sit there and watch the transaction coordinator that we currently have do their job. And if you're the agent and you're a solo agent, then you're the transaction coordinator. So you're the one teaching them how to be a transaction coordinator, right? Yeah. And so they're really trained once they've shadowed and they've been shadowed by whoever's training them. And they're like, yep, that person knows their stuff, So you're always learning new things. But really, once you can operate on your own, then you're official, And we also do a lot of like what we call love bombing when someone comes on. Like, they're getting gifts delivered to their house. They're getting shout outs on Facebook. When they show up to their desk, there's the coffee waiting for them. Welcome aboard. If you don't check out my Facebook, we just did this for some people. Like, we want them to be like, dang, my last company didn't do this. This is awesome. I
worked there for 5 years and they never did anything like this.
We want their spouse to be like, wow, this is incredible. Like, you never got treated this way. So we really spend a lot of time and energy on that too. And that's big part of our culture. So we're love bombing them. We're intentionally overwhelming them. We're indoctrinating them in our culture. And then we're, training them tactically on the different jobs that have to be done.
That's so freaking good. Yeah, it is, man. It's absolute gold. Dang, brother. I just looked at the clock, man. We've been We've been jamming.
Yeah.
We're almost at the top of the hour. Man, I can't thank you enough for unpacking this for everybody. I mean, if you're serious about growing your business, this is the most important thing that you can implement and have in your business. Are there any final, key things that you want to, kind of leave folks with as we wrap up this episode of Expert Mentors?
Yeah, I'll give one reference. I don't get paid for this or any referral fee or anything. I just think it's a really good program. Darren Hardy has a program called Insane Productivity. And part of that is a lot of this stuff, like how do you make sure you take great care of your team? How do you establish your core values? It's probably overwhelming as I talk if you're new, like, damn, core values? I don't even know. That program will help you baseline that stuff. So I'd really recommend that as a starting place. And then once you get big enough, he has a program called Business Masterclass. That's really for people doing like $1 million a year in revenue or more, or maybe 500K in revenue. He's just changed my life. I mean, if you do the stuff he tells you to do, it's not real estate, it's business building. Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of real estate training in our world for free, actually. His stuff's worth paying for on the business building side. It's fantastic. So really recommend that. It's been a big part of my life. So
I could not agree more. He is he's incredible, and I always recommend, if you haven't read The Compound Effect, awesome. that book will send you down the path and change your life. A couple of really great recommendations. You had mentioned eMyth Revisited, a lot of great tools. Building checklists. Is there a reference there that you'd say, hey, checklist manifesto or something that might?
I started that book and I couldn't get into it.
Chapter 1 is all you need to read out of that book. You're good.
I couldn't get into it. I think, not really. And there are people who are better at this than others for sure. So if you know someone in your office, a friend, you got an EXP person in your upline who is good at this, get some help from them or one of their admin. Like someone in my downline, I would absolutely be willing to have them get on a Zoom with one of my team members to help them organize their checklist, so just getting practical help from somebody who's good is probably a good way to do that. Cool. And eMyth, if you haven't hired anybody yet, first thing you should do is read eMyth Revisited. That's so good. It'll change your mind about how this all works. It's fantastic.
Brother, I appreciate you. Gave a lot of value. There's a lot of great resources. The VACheatsheet.com, yourcareer.com, Gluch career.com.
Yep.
And man, those resources are out there, and it's always important for us to find great mentors and great models. And John, you were gracious enough to pour into this jam-packed 60 minutes of just absolute fire and absolute value.
Right on, man. Yeah. Well, thanks for I know you guys have been super consistent with this, keeping this thing rocking week after week. So it's a big part of my process and joining, and thankful for all you do too, man. Hope this helps everybody. Feel free to reach out and send me a DM. Happy to chat and help out any way I can.
Got it, man. Appreciate you. Thank you guys.
All right.
See you guys next time.
See you guys.